What's going on, wrestling family? Welcome back to the channel. So this video is called 9 Non-Defending WWE Champions. Now, a lot of WWE fans do not like when you have a champion who barely ever defends their title. And I can't be mad at them at all, because if you're going to be WWE champion of any title, you need to defend that title, because if you don't, it feels like it's an accessory. It feels like it's losing its prestige, and it also feels like you're holding it hostage from other wrestlers in that division from getting an opportunity of being champion and possibly having a better title reign than the current champion. Now, one of the main culprits of this is Logan Paul, and people have been talking about this title run a lot. So I want to get into this a little bit more as the video go on. So without further ado, let's get into this.
Logan Paul's US title reign is getting ridiculous. He's now the third longest reigning United States champion in WWE history.
That is ridiculous.
After surpassing 261 days. The crazy thing about his reign is that he's only defended the title a total of 2 times.
That's nasty.
That would mean that he puts his belt on the line every 4 or 5 months. I think that would make him the worst champion in all of wrestling history. Logan Paul's third title defense will be next week at SummerSlam. Hopefully, LA Knight will defeat him to put an end to this meaningless title run.
Hope so.
It would probably be a good thing to never see Logan Paul win a WWE championship ever again. Another person who should never win.
I would say that I hope he doesn't win it again. Hopefully, if they do give him a title in the future, it'll be more productive than this one. But yeah, defending it only 2 to 3 times in almost a year is nasty work, bro. That is nasty work, because I feel like when you allow something like that to happen, it feels like the thing is like, if you hold a title, no matter how many times you defend it, the clock still ticks. So you still get all those days of defending that title onto the record book, which feels like it's falsifying records, because compared to other people who defended it in the past and defended the title multiple times, it just seems like it's disrespectful to those people who are workhorse champions. And I feel like that's what they're doing with Logan Paul. And I like Logan Paul as a wrestler. He's great in the ring. I don't know how I feel about him as a person, but as far as him being a wrestler, he's a good wrestler, but that's not fair to everyone else in that division, which is why I really, really hope that LA Knight does take that title at SummerSlam. And it also makes you wonder, what happened to the 30-day defense clause? What happened to that, right? Because I know it got extended for Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship, but that had nothing to do with the US title. It's strange how this stuff works, man.
A WWE title again is Roman Reigns, because he also had a long championship reign that didn't have too many title defenses. In his 1,316-day championship run, he only had 32 title matches. That does not sound too bad, because the average would be about 41 days, but things get interesting when you break it down. Let's look at how many title defenses he had each year. In 2020, he had the belt for 4 months. In those 4 months, he had 5 title defenses.
Oh, that's
in 2021, he defended the title 13 times in 12 months, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
In 2022, we saw that number drop to 7. 2023 was even worse. He defended the championship 5 times in 12 months. And then in 2024, for the 4 months he was a champion, he only had 2 title matches before losing it to Cody Rhodes. As you can see, Roman's title run started off great. He was defending it a lot of times, but it slowly became hard to support the Tribal Chief because he was never there defending the belt. Therefore, his championship reign is not too impressive. To put things into perspective, let's compare that to Hulk Hogan's 1,474-day title reign. He defended that a total of 468 times. That tells you a lot about Roman's championship run. Roman's Shield brother, Ambrose, also
the thing is with Roman Reigns, and I feel the same way about his numbers, although he's had one of the greatest reigns, I feel like, as far as the entertainment value. But here's the reason why I feel that way about him. You know, the numbers are pretty messed up. Again, my stance doesn't change on that. No one should have a title and barely ever defend it. Now, he's had the year that he's had 13 title defenses. That's pretty good, you know, given that it's Roman Reigns. But when you have somebody like Roman Reigns, who has, great, he's great on the mic. He's involved in one of the greatest storylines in WWE history. All of that stuff masks his title reign. People don't really think about it that often. Now, there were people who did complain about the fact that he barely did defend it, but a lot of that stuff got excused as long as the storyline that's going on around him is great. Once the storylines start to slow down, then you start to see the little mistakes and things that happen. And as he said, when you compare it to people in the past who defended their title a lot, it pales in comparison to back then. And again, it's kind of messed up and feel like that they're just padding stats when they hold the title for that long, and the title defense feel a little fraudulent in my personal opinion. But I mean, what can you do? It is what it is.
Long title reign that did not have too many title defenses. In 2013, Ambrose won the United States Championship, and it looked like that things were going to be great for the mid-card belt because the Shield was one of the hottest things in wrestling at the time, and so you thought it would be highlighted in that group. Unfortunately, the group's popularity is what actually led to the title becoming an afterthought and pretty much the demise of that belt. The WWE was more focused on their six-man tag matches more than the United States title. Ambrose technically had a decent amount of title defenses. In his record-breaking 351 days as a champion, he would go on to defend the title 15 times. However, it is worth mentioning that 8 of those 15 matches he would lose by disqualification. It's also more important to note that he didn't defend the title for almost 5 months between November 2013 and February 2014, simply because they had other plans for him. And most of the US title matches just happened to happen. They didn't have a story or anything like that. All those reasons are why most fans think that he's one of the worst US champions despite having the longest reign in WWE history. Let's move on to China.
Yeah, the thing is with that is like the problem with it again, if sometimes people's the flaws in their title reign get masked depending on what's going on around them. Just like Dean Ambrose, because he was a part of the Shield at the time. People have said things about it, but it wasn't something that people really focused on. And sometimes that's the pit hole that you fall into, or pitfall you get into with giving the title to someone who has a huge storyline involving a faction or something like that outside of like Roman Reigns. Because remember, when Rhea Ripley had her title reign, when she initially had the Judgment Day already set up with Damian Priest and everybody like that, people really wanted her to get stripped of that title because they felt like she barely defended it. And people were like, dude, what happened to the 30-day defense clause? What happened to the entire thing? They really wanted her to get stripped of that title. But as time goes on, I know she's not the champion now, but before she lost it to Liv Morgan, they started to pick up traction on her title defenses and kind of figured out how to manage the whole Judgment Day storyline and her being champion at the same time without one being overthrowing the other one. You know, it felt like the Judgment Day storyline was more important than her being champion at that time. So, you know, that's a balancing act that's pretty hard to do, in my personal opinion.
Interesting women's championship run in 2001. At WrestleMania 17, she defeated Ivory to become the champ, and then she would go on to defend that title only 3 times. It's even hard to tell just how long her reign was because WWE just simply never signed her to a new contract. Once her old one expired, she left, and so did the women's championship. That means the title went vacant, and her reign was technically 224 days long with only 3 title defenses. She was clearly not a defending champion, but also she was being booked at the same time. Brock Lesnar was another non-defending champion in the second half of his career. For the first part, let's not even talk about that because in the early 2000s, he was a fighting champion and he was one of the best champions at the time. The same cannot be said about post-UFC Brock. At this point, he established enough popularity where he would become a part-timer who was also one of the company's biggest box office names, which was a problem. It was a problem because after that, he would have 2 very lengthy title reigns that did not have any defenses. The first one happened in 2014. This was after he defeated the Streak, which was crazy, and then he took John Cena to Suplex City and squashed him to become the WWE champion, and he held onto that belt for 224 days. But in those days, he only defended the title 3 times before Seth Rollins had the heist of the century. Defending the belt every 75 days pissed off a lot of fans. So what did the WWE do about that? They decided to give him another World Championship run in 2017. Does
that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar to you guys? This is nuts, man.
Time it would be even longer at 504 days, and he defended it a total of 7 times. That is an average of having a title match every 72 days. We gotta face it, he's a true pioneer because Brock Lesnar walked so Roman Reigns could run.
Yeah. Hulk Hogan again, that's the other exception. If you put butts in seats or if you make ratings go up, especially if you're a heel, That's the only other exception as far as being able to do something like that. Now, for Brock, people did make it known that they did not like the fact that he was holding that title for that long. But I don't know. Maybe that's just like, if you're a Paul Heyman guy as of lately, you're barely going to defend that title. And maybe that's Paul Heyman's a rite of passage so far. So I don't know, man.
Was a defending WWE champion, you can't say the same thing about his WCW
Absolutely
World
not.
title
You can't.
runs. The first time he won the WCW belt, he was the champion for 469 days, and he defended it 8 times. As for the second reign, that lasted 359 days with only 6 defenses. That means he was only putting the belt on the line every 2 months, which is a long time for the wrestling business, where the rule is that you gotta defend your belt at least once every 30 days. With that being said, there's a reason why all this happened. In order to sign him, WCW gave him creative control in his contract, and to make matters even worse, Hogan's ego was through the roof around this time, and so
they had a chokehold on the WCW back then too. And the Big Gold is one of my favorite titles, if not my favorite title of all time. But the NWO, those guys had a chokehold on WCW, and it doesn't work out. It does not work out when you let the inmates run the asylum, right? I mean, I understand wrestlers having creative control in certain things or having some input on things, but when you let them just run the whole show, that whole situation was bad, bro. Especially for the up and coming stars. I feel bad for those guys.
He simply did not book himself to defend the belt because he never wanted to lose it. Plus, you had the NWO shenanigans. This is probably why it's best to not give that kind of power to a wrestler, especially if that man is Hulk Hogan. Trish Stratus is regarded as one of the best women wrestlers of all time.
All right, I'm not gonna take any Trish Stratus slander, bro. I'm not. That's just, I'm sorry. That was my girlfriend back in the day, so it is what it is, man.
She's a 7-time women's champion, and most of them were great runs. However, we need to talk about her 6th championship reign. This is when she went on to hold that belt for 448 days. It looked like that this was going to be a legendary run. That was until she got injured in the beginning of the reign. After her first 3 title defenses, she dislocated her shoulder. That kept her out of action for about 6 months. Rather than relinquishing the title, they decided to keep the belt on her, and so we did not get a women's championship match for 6 months until she did come back. After her return, she would defend the belt 8 more times, giving us a total of 11 title matches in 448 days, which isn't too bad in the grand scheme of things, but it was tough to watch the women's belt sit on the sidelines for a half of a year. Shinsuke Nakamura.
You can't include her in that. I mean, she has something there. I mean, that's not her fault that WWE did that. Like, it's not the same. It's not the same. Could she have defended it more while she was healthy? For sure. But those months that the women's championship wasn't on TV, it wasn't her fault. It's not.
And mid-card title reigns do not mix well. We're going to focus more on his IC title runs. The first one happened in 2019. It lasted 201 days, and he would defend it a total of 4 times, meaning we would see a title match every 50 days. At one point, he didn't even have a match for 3 months. What was the reason behind this? Was he injured? No, that was not the reason. WWE just simply did not put him on TV or in any matches.
Yeah.
You would think he would redeem himself when he won the belt again in 2021. That reign was 182 days long, but it only had 2 title defenses. Similar to his last reign, there was no reason for this lackluster run other than WWE having no desire to put the champion in championship matches. Shinsuke Nakamura might be one of the worst IC champions of all time. Braun Strowman's the last person.
And that's sad, man, because if you know anything about Vinnie Mac, if you're not the right size or don't talk a certain way, he's not going to push you to the moon or at all. He'll probably give you a title to say he did it and then be like, here's a title. Here, I don't want to hear anybody else complaining about it, but you're going to have the title, but we're barely going to have you on TV. At least we're going to say on paper that you were champion, but we're not going to have you on TV as much because they felt like, or he felt like, people who didn't speak a certain way wasn't as marketable as other people. And that's just how it works. And Shinsuke Nakamura, I watched him when he was in New Japan, bro. He was a beast. I still like him to this day, but I don't know. Sometimes some of these things, I wonder if the person who's holding the title really cared that much about defending it. I would assume Shinsuke does, but I feel like there's some things, some nuances behind back scenes or backstage and with creative that a lot of us fans don't really know about. So sometimes I kind of, if it sounds like I'm not really picking a side on certain things, That's the reason why, and that's the reason why I don't really pick too much of a side on this situation. But if that's the reason why he wasn't on TV because of the way he talks or that he isn't as big as other people, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
In this video, he technically won the greatest Royal Rumble championship in 2018. He has not defended that title since then, which is 2,281 days. That would give him the longest reign of all time with 0 title defenses.
Why would you put that on this list, though?
Anyways, that's it for this one.
That don't even count. But anyways, these are the 9 non-defending WWE champions. Did they leave anyone off the list? Is some of this information incorrect? Let me know in the comment section. I got to get ready because I got to head to the airport. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate that. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. Salute, peace.